Good evening, everybody. I am Rachel Donadio. I'm the curator of cultural programs here at the American Library in Paris, and it is a great pleasure to have here tonight for a special program celebrating one of France's most fascinating literary prizes, the Prix Médicis, which is often described as le plus littéraire des prix littéraires. Founded in 1958 by Gala, Barbisan, and Jean-Pierre Giraudoux. This is a fun adventure. You can all correct my French. The Prix Médicis honors bold and innovative works, books that take risks and that stand apart from the mainstream. This evening, we're joined by three brilliant writers who serve on the jury of the prize: Pascale Roze, Darrieussecq, and Anne Garréta. With this year's winners announced on November 5th, tonight's conversation offers a rare look behind the scenes of the prize, the history of the prize, how the jury works, how the winners are chosen, and how this recognition can shape a writer's life. Our discussion will last about 45 minutes. It will mostly be in English, and when something comes up in French, we will pause briefly to translate.
Je suis désolée, je parle très mal anglais, donc je parlerai en français.
She says her English is very bad and she'll speak French, but I think your English is okay. And after that, we're going to open up the floor to your questions. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, let's have a big round of applause for these three authors. I'd like to introduce all three of you, starting on my immediate left. Pascale Roze is the chair of the jury. Her neighbors once predicted she would win a conservatory prize, given how her piano playing filled the building. Instead, in 1996, she received the Prix Goncourt for her debut novel, Le Chasseur Zéro. Already active in theater, with plays featured on France Culture and at the Petit Odeon, as well as short stories and other writings, her literary career took a decisive turn. Since then, literature has become her primary pursuit. She has published numerous books, such as Dicis, L'eau rouge, and Parle-moi, many of which explore the intersections of history and private life. She leads writing workshops for engaged audiences and participates on several literary committees and juries, including the Prix Médicis.
Thank you.
To her left is Darrieussecq, president of the prize between 2019 and 2021. She was born in 1969 in the Basque Country and is a graduate of the École Normale Supérieure and a former psychoanalyst. Darrieussecq has published some 20 books, including novels, short stories, plays, essays, a biography, and translations. Since her first novel, Truisms, in 1996, she's winner of the Prix Médicis in 2013 for her novel Il faut beaucoup aimer les hommes, and she contributes to contemporary art magazines in France and Great Britain, and is a correspondent for the Times Literary Supplement. She received the Prix Sief for her entire body of work, which has been translated in many countries. She has been a member of the Médicis jury since 2018, following in the footsteps of Manuel Bernheim. And finally, last but not least, our third panelist this evening is Anne Garréta. She was president of the prize between 2012 and 2014, and since 2023. She is author of Sphinx, Ciel liquide, La décomposition dans le béton, and several academic works. She lives between France and the United States, where she teaches at Duke. She is a member somewhat detached of Oulipo. I want to know what somewhat detached means. And in 2002, she received the Prix Médicis for her novel Pas un jour, and she joined the jury in 2011. So again, a big round of applause for these three women. Okay, guys, you have just completed a very long season of reading very many books for the Prix Médicis, and I wonder if you could start by telling us a little bit about this season and how it unfolded, and if you could tell us a little bit about the deliberations that went into the winners this year, and then maybe we can back up to hear about the history of the prize. So were there big fights and discussions? How did it go? Comment ça s'est passé cette année?
Bon, d'abord, nous commençons à lire les livres que nous recevons. Il faut dire qu'on reçoit à peu près 300 livres.
We get something like 300 books per season.
Parce que nous donnons un prix pour les romans en langue française, un prix pour les romans étrangers traduits en français et un prix pour les essais. Donc on couvre presque toute la production de la rentrée. Et ça fait entre 300 et 350 livres. Okay. Donc on commence à lire en général le 1er juin et on n'arrête plus à notre première réunion, qui est en général vers le 15 septembre. Ça fait un été où on prend des courbatures parce qu'on reste assis pendant très longtemps.
So the Prix Médicis is not one prize, it's 3 prizes. There's one for literature written in French, there's one for foreign translated literature, and one for essays. So we basically receive 350 books. They start landing in your mailbox around June 1st, and you've got an entire summer of reading, and it's sometimes painful because by the time you get to September and drawing up the first lists, you're aching all over because you've spent too much time either lying down or seated or transporting books from one place to another. And books are really heavy.
Yeah.
And this year's winners is Emmanuel Carrère for Colcoge, Peter Nadash for Ce qui lui dans les ténèbres for the foreign book, as well as Nina Allan. She won, but he kind of won a little bit of a special jury prize. And then for nonfiction, Fabrice Gabriel au Cinéma Central. So can you tell us a little bit about the deliberations that went into these choices?
The deliberations were quite smooth this year. They were quite smooth. Nina Allan has always been one of our favorites. She has been on our list since her beginning. And she is also, and for me that's very important, and for other members too, I think, she's also published in France by an excellent independent publishing company called Tristram. There are only 2 people, a couple, and they are based in Auch, in Le Gers, very far from Paris. And we are at the Médicis Prize very keen on observing and keeping in mind that there are small independent companies that need to be supported, and when they are excellent, because we are not a philanthropy movement, we need good books. So no disputes.
No, but sometimes it can be very
Yes.
violent. Sometimes there are screams and shouts, and sometimes I get out of there thinking, next time I'm going to throw them all out by the window. And I remember Emmanuel Bernheim once telling me, if they don't vote the way I want them to vote, you have my authorization to just shoot them.
We knew it was a blood sport. I didn't realize it was that much of what.
Literature is a martial art, and jury deliberation is a blood sport.
Et il y a quelque chose qui est difficile aussi, c'est que une fois que nous avons établi la liste, en votant, on fait un tour de table, chacun défend ses candidats, et ensuite nous votons et nous choisissons évidemment ceux qui ont le plus de voix, mais une fois que la liste est établie, tout l'ensemble du jury doit se porter garant de tous ceux qui sont sur la liste, même si on ne les aime pas.
Right. So, the way we proceed is very simple. We go around the table, and each juror defends, presents, and argues in favor of their preferred books. And then what happens is we vote. And of course, the books with the biggest number of votes gets onto the list. There's a minimum, there's a floor, and then we figure it out.
Did we mention that we are 10 juries and nine nowadays? Yes.
Right. Generally, yes. The number of jurors is 10, and since the passing of Frédéric Mitterrand, there's been 9 of us. But what Pascale is indicating is one of the paradoxes or one of the tenets of this type of democracy. Once we have voted, every juror has to vouch for the quality of the totality of the list. There's a solidarity. It's a general will according to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, if you want.
Et quelquefois, ça peut être difficile. Un jour, j'ai fait une petite blague. S'est retrouvé sur notre liste un auteur qui a publié son journal. C'est le journal de, je crois que c'était chez POL, Arthur Dreyfus. Arthur Dreyfus, son journal qui est très gros, comporte des pages et des pages de rapports de sa vie sexuelle. Sur des pages, vraiment. Et moi, il est resté sur notre liste. Je n'avais pas voté pour lui. Et j'ai fait une blague. J'ai dit, quand je pense que moi, qui achète mes chemises de nuit à l'artisanat monastique, je suis obligée de signer cette liste, et ben je ne suis pas contente. C'était une blague, mais en fait, c'est plus profond que ça. C'est-à-dire qu'on assume, quoi. Il faut assumer même des choses qui peuvent vous déranger.
So here's the story. At some point, landed on our list a thick, fat tome by a gentleman named Arthur Dreyfus, who spent pages and pages detailing his sex life.
But in a literary way. It was
in
a good
a literary
book.
way. There was a lot of sex and very literary.
Good sex, literary sex.
The main problem.
Anyway, we discussed.
The main problem.
We're going to ask you what that means later.
The main problem was that, of course, Pascale is a lady. She's truly a lady, and she just said that she buys her nightgowns. She buys a nightgown in a shop which is dedicated l'artisanat monastic, which is basically convent artisanat.
It's basically monastic people who've taken religious
fashion.
Orders have done the handiwork.
Right.
But they have beautiful chemises de nuit.
They're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. It's
Not much skin appears.
right. Okay. So Pascale had to defend and to sign a name to this type of book.
So this is the worst follow-up question to this, but do you all vote anonymously, or do you say, okay, but then once there's a critical mass, then you have to say, this is why a majority of us are supporting this book or another?
No, it's just that since we defend the books, then when we vote, it's, of course, anonymous voting. We know more or less who's in favor of what. You cannot hide your preferences very much. But still, in the final rounds, when we decide on who's going to get the prize, and that's where most of the horse trading takes place and the shifts in preferences take place, it is, little pieces of paper, and then we do it very formally and very precisely. And sometimes votes shift.
On our brand new website, which we are very proud of, we worked a lot, and Anne did the first form, and Pascale and I made another form, and it's brand new. So please go see the photo of our little papers all torn and making a little mole of papers. But of course, since we discuss a lot and we talk a lot, we more or less know the tastes of each other, and now we know each other very well, and we're not exactly a bunch of friends, but we are all readers, which is very important for a prize.
And we're also all writers.
Yes, and that's a specific of the prize. We are all real writers. They are fake writers in other prizes.
Right.
In our prize, we are all real writers.
Yes. Yes. No, you can say that. You can actually say that. You might have preferences for this or that type of writer, but actual writers.
And that was the idea of the prize from the beginning. Let's back up a little. It's 1958. There is an incredible character named Gala Barbisan who funds the prize. Her parents were Russian. Her doctor father was in the Russian Revolution. She then married an Italian industrialist, but she remained a communist, which is probably the best way to have the best of both worlds. And on the prize website, there's a wonderful remembrance of her by Dominique Fernandez, who it's a really wild remembrance. It's great. And at a certain point, it says Luciano Barbisan was not at all interested. This is the husband. He was not at all interested in literature. He gave this prize to his wife as a little plaything so that she would forgive him for his mistress. So this is a great origin of a prize. But in 1958, the first jurors included Jean-Pierre Giraudoux, Alain Robrier, Michel Butor, Roland Barthes, Nathalie Sarraute, and Marguerite Duras. That is, as you would say, pas mal for a first jury. So tell us about the origins here.
Well, you've said it all about the origins. What do you want to know more?
How do you see yourselves in the tradition or continuing the original mandate of the prize?
You mentioned Rob Grillet, Nathalie Sarraute, Marguerite Duras, Claude Simon at one point.
Yes, at one point.
Nobel
Vous,
Prize.
vous nous écrasez là.
They are our great ancestors, and those are all members of the Nouveau Roman who impulsed a new life in French literature in the 50s, 60s. Georges Perec, for example, had the Médicis Prize. The winners of the prize are also, if you look at our list of winners, there are no mistakes. You can like more or less Georges Duprat Georges Perec. Duprat is the name of my husband. Wow. Okay, but you can.
And she's a trained psychoanalyst.
Yes, I am a trained psychoanalyst.
Remember that.
Yes, but all our nominees and all our laureats, surtout, all our winners are wonderful writers. Really, they are not. Il y a eu un creux. En regardant la liste, il y a eu un creux dans les années 80.
There was a little
dip in quality.
To speak frankly, il y a eu un groupe de jurés qui ont eu tendance à un peu trop nommer leurs copains. Mais ensuite, on a remonté la pente, je trouve, littérairement.
Right. It's very important to remember that most literary prizes are founded against something. So just as the Femina was founded to try to correct the leanings of Le Goncourt, all of these prizes have been founded in order to go against what is the mainstream tendency of literary prizes. What has been specific to the Médicis is that it has remained pretty oppositional, pretty different. It never turned into a normal literary prize. And the mission of the Médicis is to remain slightly eccentric. And at the same time, to try to discover what is going to be... Well, I'll say it differently. When I asked Marie to become a juror on the prize, it's not something you decide lightly because you're basically giving up your summers to reading 300 books. So you need...
So a lot of people refuse, actually. We must say, we are all volunteers, okay? Yeah. All the members of all the French juries are volunteers. We are not paid by anybody. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of faith in literature. Right. You need to be...
And what she said was, and the way we've been discussing it, what we want is to say, okay, this to us is what literature is. This is what is really literary and what counts as literature for us. And we take bets. We make bets on what the future is going to be.
I'm just thinking aloud that this year, we gave the prize to somebody who is much more mainstream than usually, Emmanuel Carrère. So it's sort of an anti-example of what we do in general. Yes. How do we explain that?
Un très bon
what
livre.
Happened?
Un
yes,
très bon livre.
A very good book. Very good book, but very mainstream.
Because we cannot always be eccentric. Sometimes we've got to be, a little more... a little less. But there's something else which is also pretty important. One of the main problems of French literary life has been who gets recognized as a writer and who counts as a writer. And the fact that you have 3 women sitting here on stage tonight is not for nothing. When I got onto the Médicis jury, I went and checked the list, and I saw that in the space of something like more than 50 years, there had been less than 12 women who had gotten the Dawn Prize. And in the 1980s, there was not one woman.
Only men, who gave prizes to only men.
To only men, okay. And there's been a slight correction in the, since 2010s, since I got onto that jury, and I think it's extremely important to note the shift in what counts as a writer, what counts as literature, and who gets to say what counts.
In your deliberations this year, do you want to talk about each of the books that won and what you think made those the winning choices?
It's more interesting to look, on a longer period where you can even out the contingencies of who gets to get a prize first and what's on the thing. We talked about something earlier, which was the fact that we gave 2 prizes for foreign literature, and I think it was very important to us. Nina Allen had been on our list for years, and she was obviously someone, and a publisher was obviously someone who deserves the support and the prize. But sometimes you end up on your list with other books which are so thoroughly different, that belong to a totally different category, that we decided to give 2 prizes this year, so the regular Médicis prize, plus une mention spéciale du jury for the huge Peter Nadash book. So this is a type of freedom, this is a type of thing we like to do.
Et cette année a été une année assez extraordinaire. Il y avait beaucoup de très beaux livres. Donc, on avait l'embarras du choix et il n'y avait pas à chercher à convaincre son voisin que le livre était bon. Il fallait faire le choix sur d'autres choses que la qualité, tant elle était là. Et il y a eu dans le jury des voix pour défendre quelqu'un qui finalement ne s'est pas retrouvé, mais il y a quand même eu 2 voix pour elle, parce que nous annonçons combien a eu de voix celui qui a remporté le prix et à qui sont allées les autres voix. Donc en fait, là je vous dis qu'il y a eu 5 voix pour Emmanuelle Carrère, 2 voix pour une jeune autrice qui s'appelle Laura Vasquez, qui certainement va faire beaucoup parler d'elle et que j'espère on va vite récompenser, et 1 voix pour une autre écrivaine du Mercure de France qui s'appelle Anne Serre, qui est vraiment peu connue, et un jeune auteur qui en est à son 2e roman au Seuil, qui s'appelle Kevin Orr. Donc en fait, c'est tout. Bien sûr, on ne voit que le candidat qui a eu le prix, mais il faut savoir que les listes paraissent dans la presse et que pour les éditeurs, c'est très important d'avoir un auteur sur la liste parce que ça attire l'attention des journalistes et par ailleurs du public.
Ouais. Pascale is indicating that it's not simply a price that we give. When we draw up our lists, we're sending signals. We're sending signals to the publishers. We're sending signals to readers who have a keen interest in literature. We're also sending signals to the writers themselves. And she's reminding us that we publish and we publicize the actual vote of the jury. This year, for example, Emmanuelle Carrère-Colcoz got 5 votes from the juror, but Laura Vasquez, a young author, got 2 votes for a second novel. And another writer, not very well known, published at the Mercure de France, Anne Serre got 1 vote. And Kevin Orr also got, and he's a young writer, for his second novel, got 1 vote. I'd like to add something to what Pascale has just said. It's very fashionable to say all of these jurors are corrupt, they've been sitting in their seats for too long, and we should have innocent, naive, rotating jurors who are not going to be influenced by this or that contingency. The fact that we sit on that jury year after year is a very important element, because we get to discover, we get to identify new voices, new authors, and we follow what they're doing. And it is crucial to be able to have this type of memory if you're going to do the job properly. So lots of other things you could criticize, but not the fact that someone is reading year after year for a certain duration as many books as possible so as to build a landscape of
Parce qu'il
the
faut
literary
dire que
life.
nous sommes nommés à vie.
Which is a problem.
Jurors for life.
Well, I agree with Anne, but I think it's a big problem too that we are here for life. We are getting old. And yes, we are curious and we are able to witness the rise of young authors such as this wonderful Laura Vasquez. But I'm not sure we have to stay for life. We need new voices inside the Prix Médicis.
Correct.
We're a bit
You're
too
right.
old.
I don't feel old yet.
You're not old. You'll never get old.
Would you
Some of us do.
would you add more jurors, or would you like to set term limits?
No, I mean, there are enough old fogies on the jury that we can hope that at some point they're all going to croak and we can renew.
This is recorded, darling.
This is great.
Mais c'est terrible de penser que il faut mourir pour laisser sa place.
Non, ça va pas, ça. Moi, je pense que
It's
ça va
terrible
pas.
to think you have to die to give up your place. It's like the Académie Française.
Yes.
How do you...
But they claim to be immortal. That's why they can keep on sitting in those seats.
You mention how important these prizes are to different publishers, and in fact, it's a huge impact on the bottom line of a French publisher to have a book win the prize. And sometimes, if a publisher doesn't have one of the winners of the 4 main prizes, it really affects their end of the year. How do you? I imagine that you get publishers kind of courting you in certain ways over the course of the year. How do you resist pressure from publishers?
Well, this year I had an ethical issue, is that actually POL is my publisher. So I was in the position to vote for my publisher, which is very uncomfortable. But being in the position to vote against your publisher is also very uncomfortable. So I was very uncomfortable, really, and I was very happy to see that there was an immediate majority for Emmanuel Carrère. But it's a problem, and I was even wondering if we were going to fight, if there was ex aequo, at some point I would have backed up, because I think it's very uncomfortable. And other members of other prizes are corrupted. It is a fact. They get what is called une avance, which is a lot of money that you get to write your next book. And sometimes you don't always write your next book, or you write a very thin thing that's called a book. And you get money sometimes a lot of money from publishers. And it's a big problem. The problem for me is that we are volunteers. And if we were nominated, let's say, for a long time, maybe 15 years, and getting paid by a sort of tribute of all the publishers of France or Francophonia, I think it would be much more comfortable and moral. It's a big issue of the prices. I'm not. Every year I think I will resign. It's too much work. It's too much energy. It's very frustrating sometimes. But every year when I see the avalanche of new books coming, I think to myself, okay, maybe I will find a pearl. Maybe I will find one. There is only 1 out of 10 books that is worth reading. 1 out of 10. And in the translated books, let's say 4 out of 10, because the selection has already been made. No, I'm not joking. Every year we are all facing a problem of, we are human beings and we have to read too many books and to read them seriously. So every year I think I'm going to stop. I'm not sure... Moi, je suis très ambivalente avec le système des prix. J'étais hyper heureuse d'avoir le prix Médicis. That is very important as a writer. I was so proud and happy to be recognized by other writers. But now being inside the machine, I think it's on many levels exhausting and not always comfortable.
Does either of you want to respond to that?
Il y a aussi la peur de se tromper, de passer à côté de quelque chose. Ça nous, enfin moi personnellement, ça m'habite vraiment.
The fear of getting something wrong.
La mauvaise
and
conscience,
passing someone up.
la mauvaise conscience d'être allé trop vite.
That's why we talk a lot. We exchange titles.
But that's a key. That's a key thing. If there are enough good readers on a jury, then it balances. It evens out.
And we exchange emails during the summer. Hey, did you read that? Did you notice that? Oh, okay. C'est vivant.
Right. And then there are years where you're not into the reading. So, for example, I started reading in June, and I don't know where my brain was.
Your next book, because we also write.
Right. It had gone AWOL, and I just messed up most of my readings. And then I got to September, and I got to the first meeting, and Marie was... Generally, I agree with Marie, with a taste, and we were totally at odds, and I was objecting to this or that, and I came out of that meeting and I thought, there's something wrong somewhere. And I went back to the books and I realized that I had not read properly, because my mind was not into it. And the fact that Marie was looking at them differently just brought me back to something. So I ended up sending her a little message saying, you were actually right on everything, and I was thoroughly wrong.
Depends on the years. When for example, last year you were finishing this wonderful book, and we are sometimes too busy with our own writing to be generous enough also to read the others. Ça demande beaucoup de générosité en fait, et de calme intérieur, et on n'est pas toujours disponible.
Heureusement, ça s'est bien passé parce que nous avons sorti nos livres à des années différentes. Marie, ensuite moi, ou l'inverse, je ne sais plus. Et Anne, c'est un livre qui va bientôt sortir en mars, donc c'est pourquoi pendant tout l'été et tout, même jusqu'en septembre, elle était sur son livre, et c'est très difficile de lire. Très difficile de lire quand on est dans son propre univers.
Yeah. And you had the same problem last year when you were finishing Mécène. It's very difficult to have the bandwidth. And that's why it's good that there's more than one person.
So it's very hard.
That's the logic of democracy. Put it this way. Democracy might be corrupt sometimes, or might be corrupted, but if you respect a certain number of parameters, then you get to the least bad type of outcome. And look at the list of the Médicis, it works.
And I can really imagine that reading 300 books a year affects your brain and has an impact when you're trying to do your own writing. But I also wonder how it might have shaped your writing and changed how you approach your own writing.
Tu veux y aller?
Do you compartmentalize?
I am affected by for example, I was so... I wanted this season to end. When we did our second shortlist, at last I could read again War and Peace. I had wanted to read again War and Peace since many months, and that affects me, this big wave of Tolstoy, and so we crown masterpieces sometimes, but the real influence on me is not, sorry to say, books I read during the season. Sometimes they are masterpieces, but it's not that common. So I was affected by Perec, Duras, Faulkner, Kafka, like we all are. But reading all this is more like another part of my brain.
Je suis tout à fait d'accord avec ce qu'elle dit. C'est pareil pour moi.
I will add something, which is it gives you very strong counterexamples, because I know what I do not want to write. There are ways of writing and ways of doing books that I've now identified and I cannot stand any longer. And it's a great, counter.
One thing is, I think that I've been in this jury for 7 years now, and I see that we all agree about something. We don't like storytelling. It's not enough. We don't like good stories. We like good books. It's very different. We like the way the story is told. If there is a story, we don't necessarily need a story. Personally, I love stories, but I love the way they are written, not just the story in itself.
The other thing that I cannot stand is a Wikipedia novel, where an author just takes some Wikipedia article and then narrativizes it and adds fat to the thing. It's obscene.
Il y a aussi quelque chose qui est un peu pénible, c'est de voir l'invasion des sciences sociales dans certains romans qui sont nourris de sciences sociales. Et à défaut du personnage. C'est un essai, voilà.
The invasion of social sciences in the novel at the expense of the characters themselves,
Exactly.
who aren't as deep. This is a really fascinating look at how different tendencies in literature today. You all have very different voices as writers, and all of the authors you've chosen this year have also different voices. We talked a little bit before about Annie Ernaux won the Nobel Prize, and at that time there was a conversation about, is this literature, is this just, memoir, which I think she deserves the Nobel Prize. But I wonder if in this moment in France, do you have a way of characterizing where we are in French literature, which tendencies and currents you see today?
No.
There are themes. For example, it's amazing how animals are in the books now compared to the 90s. Animals are taken seriously. Et ça me fait très plaisir. There are big themes, but les tendances.
No, we don't have.
Women are more affirmative, and that's a good
Yes.
idea.
No, it's a good thing.
Oui.
But there's no hegemonic trend or current the way there used to be at the end of the 50s, early 60s. There are the oppositions or the antagonisms between schools have tended to disappear. The great difficulty is you have a lot of very mainstream, repetitive fiction
That has always existed.
that has always existed. Fat fiction, things which is already ready-made for TV or something, for a Netflix series. But
Et ce qu'on peut dire, c'est de cette expérience de lecture, c'est qu'il y a des thèmes quand même qui apparaissent année après année, curieusement, parce que personne ne se donne le mot pour dire que ça va être ce thème. Mais il me semble qu'il y a 2 ou 3 ans, on a vu beaucoup le climat, évidemment à cause de l'émergence du thème dans la société. Bon, ensuite, la famille reste le sujet numéro 1, et cette année, c'était particulièrement écrasant. Je ne sais pas ce que ça veut dire, mais je dirais que sur l'exigence de littérature, c'est quand même assez étrange de retrouver comme ça une coagulation autour de thèmes, comme si ce qui est dans l'air du temps l'emportait sur quelque chose de profond dans l'auteur qui traverse les thèmes à la mode, quoi.
So there's a strange convergence we notice sometimes year after year. It used to be that it was the climate questions, climate anxiety a few years back. Marie has mentioned animals surfacing, more and more animals taken seriously. And Pascale is also saying that this year there was a kind of great return of family stories, of family issues in the books we read. And she's a bit surprised at the fact that there should be things socially floating in the culture, and that there should be so little individuality or depth of singularity coming from these voices.
But
ça
we
ne veut
don't,
pas
we,
dire, oui,
we
ça-
don't
ça-
reproach to Proust to write about his grandmother.
Non, ça ne veut pas dire que parce qu'on a saisi quelque chose de l'air du temps, c'est forcément superficiel, mais disons que c'est certainement d'autant plus difficile de rester fondé sur sa propre chair, je dirais, quand c'est un thème qui est dans l'air du temps.
Yes, sorry. How to summarize this quickly?
That's not because it's a general
Yeah.
theme that you don't have to focus on
On yourself.
your own.
Yeah. And you mentioned Proust and his grandmother, but the grandmother is here. She's a very striking character. I don't think there have been grandmothers like that before in literature.
Il faut chercher.
At best in George Sand, but then it's not the only thing you get with a grandmother.
There
The
is a great
grandmother-
aunt in War and Peace.
You can't wait to get back to reading. Or did you finish your rereading of it?
My year is always organized the same. I read very contemporary fiction during between May and October, and then I read classics.
So
and
winter and spring for you is classics,
yes.
classics.
And
classics.
sometimes sociology books that I need for my novels. And des essais, d'anthropologie. Ouais.
And do you have a reading year, your arc of your year, or you just read what you feel like?
My problem is that I'm also an academic, so I have academic reading to do year round, and then I have to teach something at some point in the spring, and this year it's going to be Rousseau, so it's going to be going back to classics. I'll do the Confessions and the Discourse on the Origin of Inequality, plus all of the things, surrounding it.
In 2013, Svetlana Alexievich won the Prix Médicis for Le Fin de l'Homme Rouge, which was translated into English as Secondhand Time. 2 years later, she won the Nobel Prize. Han Kang, also you gave her this prize. How do you feel about these decisions? Are you ahead of the curve? Does it give you satisfaction?
Sometimes the Nobel Prize has good taste.
Do you expect any big changes to the prize in the coming years? I mean, it sounds
some
like
people are going to die, as we mentioned. Il y a des gens qui vont mourir. We have to elect newcomers at some point. We will. More women, because women work a lot. Look at us. We will stay literary. On va faire attention à ça.
What's going to change is the fact that we have finally, Gala Barbisan disappeared and no one ever replaced her. And she was irreplaceable. But we finally have a mécène, Madame Regina Weingarten,
La Fondation GRoW.
The Annenberg GRoW Foundation. And this is going to give us means that we never had before because we were quite poor. We had nothing, basically.
I'm going to tell you a story. Pascale m'a donné la permission de la raconter. So we are volunteers, and writers are poor, generally. A lot of writers have other jobs. So we have a sponsor. We have had that sponsor for years now. Her name is Geneviève Jabouille. We love her. And she's the boss of the Méditerranée restaurant at the Odéon. Geneviève Jabouille is a real reader, and she loves books. And it's been years, I don't know how many, 15 at least, that she pays for our lunches and dinners because it's a good restaurant, and some of us could not afford to pay for their meal and had our discussion. So we have this very nice place, private room at the Méditerranée restaurant where we have our reunions. When Christine Angot had the prize, was it in 21, I think?
Yes.
Just after COVID,
yes.
Christine Angot was a famous writer already before the Médicis, and so a lot of people came to the Méditerranée. And because we are in Paris, I heard, champagne, champagne, people crying champagne. We had no champagne to give them. So I went down to see Geneviève Jabouille and I asked her, can we have 2 bottles of champagne? And she got kind of angry and she said, listen, it's been years that I'm paying for your lunch and dinners, and you don't even manage to make me a little bit of advertising. You never mention me in the press or whatever. No, I will not give you champagne. And I told her, listen, Geneviève, if we don't take dessert this time, can we have 2 bottles of champagne? And she thought, and she said, okay, no dessert and 2 bottles of champagne. So I went upstairs with my 2 bottles. I was so happy. And I suddenly realized that this was misery, that we had a very good prize. And we were in misery, really. C'est une histoire terrible pour moi. So to make a long story short, I found a sponsor, a wonderful sponsor, thanks to the Villa Albertine in Los Angeles, where I was a resident, who made the go-between. The story is cute, too, because Regina Annenberg, Weingarten Annenberg, had a look at the website of the Médicis Prize that Anne proudly made, and that was a good website, except that it was a free website, so we didn't pay for it. So it was financé par des pubs, comment on dit ça?
It was supported by advertising.
And when Regina, this wonderful Francophile woman, had a look at our website, that was our advertising for diapers. And she phoned the cultural services in Los Angeles and said, "You must say, Marie Darrieussecq, that the Médicis website has been hacked." And Didier Dutour at the consulate told me, "You've been hacked." And I told him, "No, it's our normal website." And Regina started by saying, "I'm going to pay you a new website." And then she pays me for a real cocktail. And we have now, thanks to Claudine, who is here, Les Champagnes La Bruyère, we are getting bigger and bigger. And we're getting bigger than the Goncourt.
No competition between these prizes.
And our parties are going to become the best.
So we have a plan here, thanks to our sponsor, the GRoW Foundation.
Wait, what are your parties?
Anne will take care of it.
I'm the party planner.
Voilà. For the moment, we do cocktails for la remise du prix.
Cocktails are so traditional. I want something a little more eccentric.
We have to dance.
Nightclub.
Yes, and I have to say that my friendship with Marie started in a nightclub. I met her in a nightclub.
Yeah. We love to dance.
We love to dance.
Pascale
And we've
dance
been
too.
dancing together regularly. And I think it's very important.
We are also buddies.
Not just readers.
Yes.
On this note, thank you so much for this great conversation.